This is the story of a woman who fell from heaven straight into hell. She was just going home with her husband to visit his family, but she had no idea that this trip would completely change her life. Betty was from America, a confident, free-spirited woman, but her husband's homeland was a place where women couldn't even walk with their heads held high. The moment she got off the plane, her in-laws shoved a special gift into her hands. It was a full-body veil that only showed her eyes. Looking at the women around her dressed the same way, Betty felt a wave of suffocation and unease. She asked her husband, "What happens if I don't wear it?"
She said
you'd get arrested.
Even though she already sensed how serious things were, she was still surrounded by armed soldiers just because a few strands of her hair showed from under the veil. That's when she truly understood. Here, rules meant the line between life and death, but her husband only offered her a faint comfort. In that moment, fear completely took over her heart.
They're very strict about the dress code here.
Her husband's brother, who was standing beside her, kept venting his anger on her. Being treated like that right after arriving, Betty was filled with regret. But this was only the beginning. On her very first day back at her husband's family home, she was glared at again, this time for eating without wearing her veil. Back in the US, she could wake up whenever she wanted, take a shower anytime, wear whatever she liked. But here, bathing was considered impure, and leaving the house required being wrapped head to toe in cloth. Even the air around her felt heavy, like it was locked in chains. At first, she thought it was just a short visit, but then her husband suddenly announced a decision that completely shattered her.
We're not going back, we're staying to live in Iran. There's nothing for me in America.
Betty's upbringing and education made it impossible for her to survive in such a feudal society.
No, I won't stay here. You can't keep me.
Now you listen to me. You're in my country now. You're my wife. You do as I say, you understand me?
She was shocked, broken, and in total disbelief. That gentle, loving man she once knew had turned overnight into a tyrant who controlled her fate. He took away her passport and her money. When Betty tried to tell her in-laws about her husband's cruelty, no one comforted her. Instead, they all took turns scolding her, and even blamed her husband for not disciplining her properly. That's when she realized, here, she is not a wife but property. Betty's husband was a loser in the United States. He was looked down on by his co-workers, and eventually lost his job. His long-term marginalization left him with no sense of belonging to that country. But in Iran, everything was different. Here, he was the authority. He had the power to decide everything in the family. His wife and daughter had to obey without question. But Betty didn't give up. Since there was no American embassy in Iran, she secretly took her daughter and ran to the Swiss embassy for help. But things didn't go the way she expected. When the staff learned that her husband was Iranian, their attitude instantly changed, and they gave her an answer that completely crushed her.
If you marry an Iranian man, you automatically become an Iranian citizen. The laws regarding women are very strict. You cannot travel anywhere without written permission. You have no rights to the children. I'm sorry, but you will have to go back to your husband.
But we'll never get out of Iran. We're being held hostage. It was almost impossible to come here.
May I ask you why you came to Iran?
I don't know. I was afraid to come. I wanted to please him. I trusted him.
With nowhere else to go, the mother and daughter had to return home. But what waited for her there was her husband's fists.
We went for what?
You try anything like this again, I'll kill you.
She finally realized that if she wanted to survive, she had to tear open this cage with her own hands. Finally, she met a shop owner who had returned from studying in the United States.
You want a telephone? Please, come. Please.
After speaking with the embassy, they could only offer sympathy, nothing more. Just as Betty was about to leave in despair, the shop owner who'd been watching her kindly said he might be able to help. The next day, he introduced her to an underground group. They were willing to help her escape, if she could pay $10,000. They even laid out her escape route on the spot, and the fee could be paid after she made it safely to the US. For freedom, that price meant nothing. From that day on, Betty began pretending to obey. She acted as if she had accepted life there, but every prayer, every sigh, was her silently counting down the days until her escape. Then war broke out. The borders were under strict military control. Their escape plan was delayed again and again. One day, Betty got a call her father was critically ill. To her surprise, her husband actually agreed to let her visit him in America.
Tell her you're going to see him. Tell her now.
That evening, Betty cautiously probed whether she could take her daughter home. As expected, it made him furious. And that's when his real intentions came out. He only wanted her to go back and sell their house. With their daughter still in Iran, he knew Betty would have to return. Faced with his conditions and the date he set for her trip, Betty finally decided to risk everything. In this country, girls as young as 9 could already be married off. She couldn't take the risk of leaving her daughter behind. And then, her chance finally came. Her husband was called in to work late. So Betty told her in-laws she was taking her daughter to buy a gift for her sick father. The mother and daughter ran away from that nightmare home. She didn't turn back or hesitate. Even if escaping meant dying, she was ready. They crossed the desert, but during a rest stop, the driver who transported them took her passport and wallet. Betty, with the child in tow, dared not resist. After passing through a dangerous area filled with armed groups, the driver brought out a horse. They were now on the last stretch before reaching Turkey. The terrain here is treacherous, and the environment is harsh, but their unwavering belief sustained them through it all. When they finally met their Turkish contact, the driver handed Betty a small package.
Turkey! Turkey!
She opened it, and inside were her passport and wallet. Only then did she realize that the driver had been helping her all along. If anyone had found those things on her, she would have been sent right back into that nightmare. Filled with gratitude, Betty finally reached the U.S. Embassy in Turkey. Tears blurred her vision, but at that moment, she finally smiled. She had made it out alive. For herself, and for her daughter. This story was based on true events. Later, Betty became a writer and a public speaker. She used her own experience to help women who lived through the same pain she once did.